So yeah, I'm co-director, co-founder and director of Café Recharge in Galashiels, a surplus food cafe that works on a pay what you can basis. My journey into social enterprise was probably not quite what people expect. I've come a kind of different route. I'm not even educated to degree level. I don't even have any hires. When I was at school, I had a lot of ill health. I was diagnosed with ME when I was about 14, which meant that I missed a lot of school. Before that, I was bright. I was doing well academically. I had high hopes of becoming, I think I wanted to be an art therapist or a paediatrician, but that soon kind of fell by the wayside. And when I was approaching my exams, I hadn't been at school so much that a lot of staff told me that I should just leave without any qualifications because I wasn't going to achieve anything, so I should just maybe leave now for the better, which I refused to do because I'm also quite stubborn. So I carried on. I achieved 4 whole standard grades. I didn't even get English because I'd missed too much school to do the coursework. And I left school at 16, I think, when I was 16. Didn't go to uni, didn't even go to college then. I went straight into work. Didn't really work out for me. I was sort of 16. I left home. I went to live in Edinburgh from the borders, and I knew that I had to do something a little bit better than, just factory jobs. So I did 6 months volunteering with community service volunteering down in Birmingham, which was possibly one of the best things I could have done. I lived down there for a year. I picked up shifts doing waitressing and bar work and hospitality to make a little bit of money. And yeah, kind of started living my life. And although I'd always struggled financially, I kind of always made it work somehow. I started working as a nanny to a family when I moved back up to the borders, and I did that for 10 years. Not really the best paid job in the world, but I enjoyed it, and it was a good, worthwhile job. When I got to a certain age, I thought, well, I need to get a proper job because these children end up going to school and then that's me out of a job and then I have to move on to another family. So I went to college to study early years education, and worked as an early years practitioner in a school nursery, which was brilliant. I got married, I settled down, I decided to have my own kids, and as I sort of did that, I found that I couldn't work as much as I wanted to. I didn't really want to work that much when I had young kids. So my hours dropped and dropped and dropped until I was doing about 7 hours a week, which obviously affected my income. And we really struggled for a while. My friends were dropping off food parcels to us. And yeah, it wasn't a particularly great time, but we managed to do it, managed to work through it. And it was then that I started really being creative with my cooking, getting the yellow stickered produce and making the most of the little bits of food that we could get, which kind of kick-started this love of creative cooking. Around that time, my friends were a really diverse group. I had there were friends in our sort of social group that were doctors, there were friends that were artists, there were friends that were midwives. So the income of everyone kind of was very different. And when we used to go out for lunch together, I used to really dread it because I would be the one that just had the starter and a glass of water, and just kept my fingers crossed that we wouldn't split the bill and we'd just pay for what we'd eaten. And I remember thinking at the time how unfair that was. And I wanted to do something about that. By which point my kids were growing up, they'd started school, and I thought it was time that I did something for me that I wanted to do. I'd done a little bit of work doing cookery classes for young children with a community action group. So I was aware of the surplus food that was available, and I thought if we could tap into that and kind of work with that and provide a space that was inclusive, that you could afford the food, that everyone could work, everyone could eat together in, So I didn't really know how to go about that, never having done anything like that in the past. But my husband had just been made redundant at that point from the charity he worked for, and he set up his own charity. And I remember thinking that if he could do it, then it couldn't be that difficult. And he kind of knew the starting blocks. He knew the people that I should initiate conversations with. So with no experience of running a business, but with a lot of experience in hospitality, I went to the Scottish Borders Social Enterprise Chamber, who kind of set up social enterprises and help you with the legal side of it and all the paperwork. So I went there with this crazy idea of a surplus food cafe that was pay what you can, that would be this amazing community space where people could meet, and there would be no stigma around it, and you could have all different people eating together. And yeah, they helped me set up with the sort of the community interest company part of it instead of a charity. We knew there was a need for it in Gala because there wasn't really any family-friendly eateries or places that were kind of cool. Sorry if you run a cafe in Gala at the moment. Yeah, so that was my crazy idea. They helped me do the business plan, which again is nothing. I knew nothing about business plans. And then we needed to find premises. That's a whole other story. I applied for a tiny block of funding. I think it was £5,000 to start up. And I actually got refused that first pot of funding. And I think that is the only time in this that I've actually cried. So I had a big cry. And I felt terrible. And I thought, this is never going to work. I've put all this effort in. But I only lasted about 20 minutes. And then I kind of picked myself up and I was like, right, come on. This is, you want to do this. We got round the little kind of bumps that we needed to get round, and we were due to set up in a community centre, and then this little tiny thing called COVID happened, and everyone was told not to go out or eat at any cafes under any circumstance. So we were, that was brilliant, that was great. So we cooked for the food bank, we used the equipment that we had, we used the little bit of funding that we had, we used the links to the supermarkets that we had, and we cooked for the food bank, community groups, the resilience hub, anybody that got in touch with us. We would try and reach out to the community and do what we set out to do. So that's kind of how we got to this point. There was that bit. Yeah, we had to find premises because the community centre that we were in kind of kicked us out. So we had to find somewhere new to run it from. And then kind of in a roundabout way, we found somewhere which is slightly bigger than we anticipated. It's a 60-seater restaurant, which is not the small tea room that we had in mind. But we've been here for 3 years now, and we have about 20 volunteers on our books. We employ 2 people in the kitchen. There's myself and my business partner Amanda, who I will tell you about in a minute. We do all the front of house and HR and funding and everything else, and we've just got money from the lottery for an operations manager, which will be recruiting soon. So I think in the 3 years we've managed to achieve way more than we initially thought we would, which is brilliant. And I've been asked to kind of speak about the good bits and the bad bits of running a social enterprise. I've noted down here, if you can, have someone else to do it with you. Because if I was doing it on my own, I would have given up long before now. I have a business partner who is also a very good friend. I knew her a little bit when we started. She was a sort of a friend of a friend, but she's really good at all the bits that I'm not good at. So she's good at the paperwork side of it. She's good at the business side of it. And we kind of always manage our tough bits opposite each other. So if I'm really struggling, she's the one that kind of pulls me up and says, no, we can do this, you know, this is what we set out to do, we knew this was going to happen. And likewise, if she's struggling and wants to give up on it, then I kind of pull her out of it. So I think that has been brilliant for us, just to have that other person to bounce ideas off. We both just work part-time, so yes, it probably could be done with one of us doing it full-time, but it would be a lot less fun, and yeah, I'd probably have given up a lot earlier. Another thing to remember is that it will not always run smoothly. We have needed to pivot and change direction and rethink what we're doing numerous times. And I think so long as your core objectives are still there, then, you know, you don't drift too far. You kind of always come back to the central point, which is really good. As for being a woman in social enterprise, I don't know if the difficulties that we face is because we're women or because we have children and we're the primary caregiver for those children. The hardest thing I find is to keep everything in my head. I have lists all over the place because alongside all the children's appointments and dentists and birthday parties, you've then got to remember your business meetings and, you know, income generation. So that's the bit that I find quite very difficult to manage, in fact. And I think if I was working any more, I'd do 30 hours a week. And although some weeks I do a lot more than that, I think if I was down as any more on paper, I would really struggle. We need to remind ourselves constantly that as much as we love doing this and it's our baby, it's not our life. Our families and our friends are our lives. This is our job. And sometimes you get carried away, and I think it's important to remember that, yeah, it is a job. It's a really worthwhile job and it's a job that you love, but it's not worth, in our opinion, putting it above your family and your friends. I think social enterprise can be a really good choice. You can get a really good balance of bringing in an income and doing what you're passionate about and doing what you know is helping other people and what is making a difference to other people. No matter how small, and sometimes I go home at the end of the day and we've made absolutely no money whatsoever, but I've managed to help somebody out of a tricky situation, and that to me kind of gives me more of a boost. And you can, if you're your own boss and you run your own business, you can kind of pick your own hours. I mean, I finish early so that I can go and pick my kids up, and then I do paperwork in the evening when they're in bed, in theory. Sometimes I do it in the morning when they're still asleep. But yeah, you kind of, if your kids have got a school play on that you need to go to, then you can go to that, which to me is, again, hugely beneficial. Oh, thank you. I've got some coffee. You will end up working more than you get paid for, especially in the start, but I don't know, we kind of accepted that and sucked it up. And also another big thing that we both suffer from, myself and Amanda, is imposter syndrome. And everyone else that says they've got imposter syndrome, I think that they're just faking that, and that I have real imposter syndrome. So I've got imposter syndrome on top of my imposter syndrome, which is brilliant, which is really hard to deal with. And we never congratulate ourselves for the achievements that we have. We never stop and look and go, oh, wow, look what we've done. That's brilliant. We still haven't even been out to celebrate getting it off the ground. And I think that's important. I think you should try and make time and get other people to point out your achievements, and try and listen to them when they say that you're doing well. So that's kind of ended on a bit of a downer, that bit. Well, not really, but that's kind of my roundup of running a social enterprise.
Amy, thank you so much. That was just fantastic, and your passion just shines through. It really does. And you'll see there's a lot of love in the chat for you there as well. I absolutely resonate with what you say about imposter syndrome. I think it's those two words just come up over and over and over again in the work we do. And you don't have it because it's a made up thing. It's just normal. It's normal to feel uncomfortable in situations where you're putting yourself out like this morning, for example. So thank you so much. I see Jill's joined us as well. Hi, Jill. Lovely to see you. If it's okay, I'll hand over to Kathryn now and ask Kathryn to share her story.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everyone. It was so good to hear. There was so much from what Amy was saying there that I really connected with, and just really wanted to share a little bit about my journey as well. I think there might be some themes in there that are common. And
Kathryn, are you okay to come on camera? Is that all right?
I think I've got my camera on. Can you see me?
No.
Let me just turn it off and turn it back on again.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's you. Oh, see you now. Lovely.
Okay. All right. Thank you for telling me that, because it was the camera was up where I was, so I thought you could see me. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of my journey as well. I think similarly, it's not been that kind of linear route into social enterprise and the third sector. I started off when I started working, I worked in finance, a finance company in Edinburgh, moved down to West Yorkshire, where I was working in business development for a bank, working particularly with small and medium-sized enterprises. So almost sitting on the other side of the table, hearing about lending and what their requirements were, their growth plans, like the forecasting, all that kind of stuff. And after some time that I had been working in that role, I moved back to Edinburgh and I started to work as a business manager of a small consultancy business in Edinburgh. So started to get a little bit of I suppose a background and knowledge of how businesses run, because working in kind of like the financial side, HR, that kind of thing. It was a really small practice, and I suppose I don't know if that journey would have necessarily changed so drastically if my situation hadn't changed. And the big thing for me was when I had my children. So I had my first baby. And I suppose that it wasn't what I expected it to be. I was, waiting. It felt like for a long time to be able to have my baby. And when he arrived, it was amazing. But also, I was really quite shocked by how hard I was finding it. It was the first of my friends to have a baby, and everybody was saying, enjoy every moment, you're so blessed. And I did feel lucky to have him, but I really couldn't marry up the feeling of looking at him and loving him so much, but also feeling so awful. And I felt probably quite ashamed by that. And I didn't talk to anyone about it. So just kind of struggled on, how are you, Kathryn? Yeah, I'm fine. Didn't go down any of the traditional routes of asking for help. And really struggled in that postpartum period with my own mental health and well-being. So I suppose the thing that felt like a bit of a game changer, I was late to the party. All my friends that have children, they're about 4 months younger than my son, because by the time I finally got to the baby groups and started to go and find a network, it just took me a little while to get there. So when I started to get out and about, I think the thing that was really like the light bulb moment for me was chatting to other parents and hearing them say, I'm so tired, this is so hard, I find this really difficult. And it kind of just shone a light on it for me, because I've been struggling alone and felt like it was probably just me and I was maybe really bad at it or not doing it right. And so when I met other parents and had those really honest conversations, they were so important to me, because they made me realize that it wasn't that I was doing anything wrong. It is hard when you have a baby and that network of peers around you. For me, it was transformational. It made such a big impact on my journey, and helped me to just have a different outlook on the way that I was feeling. So that, I suppose, that lived experience for my mental health, and also the power of peer support, really it kind of challenged me to think about what was important in that period. And so when I had my daughter, I felt like I did things quite differently. I also, at that point, in my wisdom, with a toddler and a new baby, decided to embark on a course in perinatal education for a year. So just to, add something extra into the mix while I had a very young family. And when I finished that course, I started to teach antenatal and baby classes, and the education side of it was really important to me. But what I found was really giving me the joy was seeing those connections starting from a really early stage in pregnancy and then carrying through into postpartum. So having that community support, I could see the difference that was making, and not only could I see the difference it was making for those groups of women, I could relate that to my own experience and see what a different experience that led to. So it made me want to focus on the community aspect of, I guess, community care. Self-care is important, of course, but community care and having that sort of nurture and connection of a group of peers. Because of that, I started to look for premises, and I wanted to set up a community interest company. Actually, I didn't know that at that time because I didn't know what a community interest company was. But I knew that I wanted to create a space that was going to have really great things happening for parents. It was going to build that community, help build confidence as well for anyone that was expecting and in those early years as well. And that was the concept for Kin Collective. So we have a family wellbeing hub in Leith. We have parents coming from all over Edinburgh, and we primarily support them through our perinatal wellbeing project, which is a peer support programme, and it is looking at physical, emotional and mental wellbeing for parents in pregnancy and early parenthood. So the way that we do that is we have groups on every day of the week, pretty much, where people can come. It's accessible, free to attend. People can make a contribution, a donation, pay it forward if they want to, but the idea is that it's accessible to everyone. So all parents can come and join us. And when we have our peer support programme, it's mostly during term time. That's a bit, as Amy alluded to, a little bit around the flexibility that is important when you have a family. So a lot of our peer support project is during term time, although we do have some stuff running over the summer as well. And we find that we have parents coming from all over, all different kind of backgrounds, and a really nurturing, welcoming place. And we include a lot of education within that programme as well, so that we've got the peer element, we've got professional support, we've got a really amazing team of perinatal practitioners as well that are involved in that programme to help deliver that support. So in terms of that journey for me, it felt like it was a real the impact of lived experience that led me to where I am. So it wasn't knowledge of the third sector. I think in terms of what was a massive help to me, because actually knowing where to start was quite hard, and had the vision and I knew what I wanted to do, but knowing how to actually achieve that felt really daunting, especially things like premises, commercial lease, the legal entity of the organisation, getting the right structure, funding, working with grant funders, like no knowledge of any of that. And I suppose the thing that was really, really helpful at that phase, and still is, to be honest, is actually just tapping into the massive wealth of resources that are out there, because there are so many organisations and so many places that can support that social enterprise journey. And you don't have to start as an expert in all of it, because actually there's going to be people there to guide you and help you. And so using that knowledge that was already out there really helped us as an organisation to then develop into what we wanted to be. So absolutely, like Amy, bumps in the road, lots of things, unexpected things happening. The premises was a really tricky one for us. We, like trying to find the things that were on our wish list. We needed step-free access, to be accessible with prams, and we needed it to have good transport connections, for people to be able to access us. We had quite a long list, and finding the right place took a really long time. And when we did find the right place in 2019, It was still a shell at that point, scaffolded, had to put the hard hats on and everything to go and have a look at it. Found the right place, thought, yes, this is it. This is going to be our new home. At the beginning of 2020, getting set, thinking, amazing, we're going to be able to get open, get going. And then, of course, in March 2020, a whole different scenario suddenly landed in our laps of, no, we're not going to be able to have this lovely space right now. Our response to the pandemic was, I think, organic, but we very much took everything online. I know that it was hard for everyone, but I actually think for people that were isolated when they were pregnant and had a small baby, that was just one of the hardest things. We can't even imagine now, like having a baby and not being able to have your mum or dad even to come into your house and give you a hand. So we took everything online, education. We had this built up this huge bank of practitioners, lactation consultants, women's health physios, fitness specialists, everything that we could think of that would help to provide support to parents that were feeling lonely. And actually, we just did loads of socials online as well. So our cuppa that we do every week started off online. And when we were able to, we started to do buggy walks outside so that even though people couldn't meet indoors, they'd still be able to get that connection and walk in a pair with another parent. So we've had to adapt. We've had to change our plans. We thought we were all set for a year down the line, kind of defer our plans for 12 months, open in January 2021. And then about a month before that, yep, okay, you guessed it, that's not going to happen either. So second lockdown then. So we actually opened our doors in May 2021. So just coming up for 3 years in May this year that we'll have been open for. Lots and lots of challenges. Amy, I'm impressed that you've only cried once because I've cried more than that. Absolutely. But so an up and down journey, but then I think that's been part of the learning curve, that you have to adapt, you map things out, you see how you think you're going to be, you have that vision, and then you have to make some changes and have that flexibility. And just because things don't mirror exactly what's on the business plan or look exactly the way you thought they were, doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong, it's just different. And so that's been a learning as well. And equally, I would say that I definitely have to step out sometimes and look at all the good things that are happening at Kin, because there's amazing things that are happening. But sometimes I do get a bit lost in the list of, but I haven't done this yet, and there's that as well, and there's all these different things to do. And because of that, when you're in that business and you're so in it, it's hard to sometimes see how much that you're doing. So that is an important reminder that you do have to kind of look at that. And actually, the community voice, I would say, is a community interest company. Our community is so important in helping us shape what we do. So it's really vital that we hear those voices. That's not been difficult for me because I feel like I'm basically, for the last 3 years, I've always been there. So I hear those voices all the time, which is what I want. But that has actually helped us to shape our program, and people have been able to tell us, but there isn't this thing available and we really wish we had that, or, and that's helped us to shape what we want to do in terms of how we develop our project. And so I would say that that's a really important thing to take into consideration. If you are wanting to make change, if you want to take action, you can have the plan and action it, of course, but actually you need to have that connect in with the community that you're serving to make sure that, so if I think, this thing is amazing, and everyone else thinks, well, actually, we don't really want that, then there's not really any point. So for me, having that connection with our community is really important. And I struggle with the fact that actually I need to step out of that a little bit more now as the organisation is growing. So when it started, I always call us a micro organisation. We're a really small team. There's me and one other who work part-time, have a board of directors that support me, and sessional practitioners who also help with our project. So in terms of the operational side, up until very recently, it's just been me that's doing that, as well as some of the programme delivery. So similarly to Amy, I find that I'm there and working and doing some of the community support side of things in our perinatal programme. And then, it is like when the kids have gone to bed, or, a quick, sometimes they're at a class and I'm sitting, like replying to emails or whatever it is about kind of trying to squeeze all of that in. But actually, I got some wise words, and I don't think this is quite the right quote, but I think they said along the lines of, you can't be in it to grow it. So if you're always working in your business, how do you work on your business? And so actually giving myself some time to not be there feels really weird, but actually is the time and space that I need to be able to reflect and say, actually, this is where we are, where are we going next, and making sure as a team that we're all agreed in terms of the strategic development of the organisation and where that goes next. So that's something that is proving slightly challenging to me because I like being there. I suppose that's the thing. I love what I do. So I love being with all the parents. So to step away from that feels a little bit hard, but actually I know that is what Kin needs. So I'm trying to get that balance right. And I suppose the other thing that I think is really helpful is just around balance. Again, I try and work around my family life. So I want to be able to drop my youngest at school and pick her up from school wherever possible. To go to the play or the assembly or the 50 other things that happen in December that seems to be all at once. I really want to be there for the things that are important for our family life. And yeah, the hours then become around that. And there is evening working. I think if you have your own organisation, it's very hard to switch off from it. And it's something that I'm trying to do better. So I chatted with my team about practicing what you preach. So preach a lot at Kin Collective about the importance of care of parents. I think if for anyone that has a family, you will know that as a mum, you can put yourself to the bottom of the list all the time. You're thinking about your children, perhaps partners, other family members, what pets, what's going on in the house, all this massive to-do list. And then where do you actually make the time for yourself? And I feel that with Kin, I'm so all in sometimes that I actually have to remind myself that I'm sharing this important message of how much that care and time to look after ourselves is, and I really need to make sure that I give that to myself as well. So these are all learnings that I suppose that have just kind of over time, the things that I've recognized, the challenges or the things that that I need or the things that I need to do differently, and that is about the well-being of the organization. And I think as well, if you are in the social enterprise, then that well-being for self as well, which is just as important. So I suppose those are my top tips. If you are thinking about social enterprise, it is a roller coaster. There are ups and downs. There are unforeseen situations. I could not be happier being at work, and it actually even just having a little break over the Christmas and then opening the doors in January and coming back in and thinking, I feel like I'm at home again. It's such a great feeling and amazing to see the support from those families that they provide to each other. So so many highs, bumps along the road. I think that's normal. And I think that if I look back at the journey of where I am now versus what I thought it was going to look like, it's so different, but I don't see that as a negative. I think that all of those things that we've overcome, all the challenges, is part of that kind of building what the organisation has become today.
Kathryn, thank you so much. That was just amazing to hear your story. It really was. And I think so common in terms of lived experience, then driving the desire to do something and change things for the better for others as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am now going to hand over to Jill from Trees and Seas Outdoor Adventures. And Jill, if you would like to share your story, that'd be great. Over to you.
Hi everyone. Sorry I came on late. I totally forgot because I was sitting writing my why to why I set up Trees and Seas. So it's quite useful so I can speak it and then I can type it later. Kathryn, that was a lovely story. I never knew you existed, but that's such a great organisation. And Amy, I've heard your story before. So yeah, again, well done for both of yours. Inspirational chats. So yeah, I'm Jill. I am the founder and director of Trees and Seas Outdoor Adventures. The name is because we work outdoors in the forests, and we also work outdoors at the beaches in Edinburgh. So we do outdoor learning for children. A lot of you might know it as beach schools or forest schools, if you have your own children and they attend any outdoor learning and play. environments. So yeah, we are a community interest company set up, constituted in 2020. We did taster sessions in 2019. From my background as a nursery practitioner, early years practitioner, outdoor forest school leader and development worker, I worked in numerous nurseries and schools throughout my career, and loved it, loved being outdoors with the children, and yeah, did a lot of training through the positions that I was in. Worked in special schools with children with additional needs, and generally I worked with children under 5 in nursery settings or outdoor settings. Then I went into school, which was great, but being stuck inside all day just wasn't for me. Even though I was taken on as an outdoor development officer, the school wasn't in the right place at the time to be taking learning outdoors. So I moved on from there, went into a nature kindergarten, which there's quite a lot of them in Edinburgh. Went in there part-time. I always had this vision of something, I just wanted something more. I wanted to provide children in my area with more. I live in an area of deprivation, which is in Edinburgh, like I said, and south side. And there was nothing available for my children to attend that was affordable. Forest schools are seen to be quite elite and can range from £25 for a 3-hour session to £45 for a 4-hour session. That's in Edinburgh. And I knew that I couldn't afford it to send my daughter, which I wanted to when she was growing up. So I had to decide, how can I develop something? How can I create something that is inclusive for everyone, especially the little children that I see every day walking back and forward to school? So yeah, that was one of my main reasons for setting up. Also have a little boy who has got additional needs. He has got Down syndrome, and lots of children with additional support needs get excluded from mainstream not organisations, but classes, because a lot of organisations think the support might be difficult, or the challenges that children often or can have can be difficult for them to manage. So lots of children are, or if you have additional support needs, we've got a separate class for that. You can attend our ASN sessions, but we can't include them in our everyday mainstream activities, which you'll know having your own children. Special schools are still in Edinburgh and they're still called special schools, but now they're children with additional support needs are getting more integrated into mainstream classes, which is fantastic. Often the support's not always there, but hey ho, that's another story. So yeah, I wanted to create an inclusive organisation that was affordable, that included all children, no matter what their social circumstances were or what their developments were. So that's why it came about, because of my lived personal experience. How I did it, I don't know. I just went to did a lot of research online. Decided to set up as a community interest company because I knew the funding was available. Having funding available is really, really helpful. We got funded through Firstport and Unlimited. We also got little pockets of money from charities within the area that I live. We've got our first £500, which helped us buy some kit to start up, and also pay for our insurance, because working with children, working with fires, working with tools, you need a separate type of insurance for that. So we got £500, got that I spent quite a bit of money on my own in the beginning, because obviously we need our outdoor first aid training and things. And then where were we from there? So yeah, little pockets here and there from local organisations. Started with taster sessions for families. Because I live and worked in the area, I knew a lot of families anyway. So I just started up a little Facebook group, inviting children to taster sessions. Started in one location, which was Craigmillar Forest. And the children would come for a 2-hour session. We charged minimum. We started at like £5 for a 2-hour session, and we then developed. We then grew as an organisation. The sessions were selling out really quickly, and we got, how did it work from there? We were, really busy. We took on some staff, and we started with volunteers, got some staff, and then, we increased our sessions. Parents were happy to pay that minimal fee, but we were still thinking, how can we make it free still? How can we make it affordable? Even though £5 is, for me, it's not a huge amount of money, but for some families it is if they've got 3 or 4 children, and that's every week. So we seeked funding through the National Lottery, through Firstport, through loads of just searching online, to be honest. For me, it was really difficult because I hate sitting behind a screen. I hate typing. I hate English. I hate reading. I hate anything that involves grammar, punctuation, because I didn't succeed well at school for that. So I work with my hands and I work with children, and that's what I'm good at, which I found was really challenging, sitting typing proposals and business plans and all the back end stuff, doing websites, booking systems. There's so much to do. But there is, like Kathryn said, hundreds of organisations that are there to help and offer support, through Skills Development Scotland to for Firstport and Unlimited. Loads of different training is available, and it's free. EVOC, Social Enterprise Scotland. There's so much support out there. It's fantastic. And attended a lot of workshops, lots of online training, hundreds. And I was quite lucky because I was able to do that when COVID kicked in. So was able to do all the back end stuff and do all the training and research, and just trying to learn and upskill was hard, especially having 2 young children. So that is a bit about the history, the background. We've grew our team, so there's now 9 of us. We've got two sites that we use in Edinburgh, one which is in Gracemount, one which is in Craigmillar. Both areas are high deprivation. We work with local schools. We have increased our sessions, so we don't only just work on a Friday afternoon when the schools finish. We also provide sessions for the under 5 or under 6, depending if they're at school or home educated or whatever. We also work with the local authority for children who are disengaged from education. And this is all just came from working in the area, working local. All our staff are local as well, so we don't recruit people from the other side of the city. We make sure that we've got people who either work in the schools or work in the nurseries or are freelance, so they know the backgrounds of a lot of families and the areas. All my staff have got children with additional support needs as well, so they're able to offer help and advice for parents who are often struggling or trying to navigate the difficult system where nobody knows what's going on for children with additional support needs. so we work 5 to 6 days a week, and we operate 5 to 6 days a week. I used to do that, but now, like Kathryn, I've sort of taken a step back. So the first 3 years was really, really intense. Took on loads of work, took on, we suggested too many things, didn't burn out, but it was close to burning out. And then built up a reputation, and built up our team, like I said, built up some reserves financially. We were able to offer free sessions. We also started paying it forward, and we had a sliding pay scale as well. Because we're living in an area of deprivation, it doesn't mean to say there's not families that have got extra income or disposable income. So we offered from free sessions up until, like, it was, I think our highest is £12 to £15 for a 3-hour session, and it was up to parents to decide what they wanted to pay, no questions asked. It was up to them to use the booking system, which was entirely up to them. We've had parents that have used the free system for over a year, but when we maybe came into some money, they've gave us a huge donation to say thank you for supporting my child when we were going through a really rough time. Some parents have just said, yeah, I can afford it, I'd like to pay 10 sessions forward for families or children who couldn't normally attend. We've been funded, like I said, from the National Lottery, so that was a really great thing because we've been refused so many times by them. But just if you're setting up, just keep applying. It is tough. I don't have a fundraising officer. I don't have a comms, marketing, anybody to do that. I am the person that does it all, and it is difficult. So yeah, that's the sort of challenges. But like I say, 3 years I think was getting it all set up, and now I'm able to back off a little bit and do things like this. I'm able to attend different training. I'm able to do leadership training and support the team. So yeah, what am I trying to say? I don't know. Yeah, just keep going. If your passion is there, just keep going with it. There's loads of support available. I've got directors who are fantastic, and my team are all highly skilled professionals who I trust and can leave to it. So yeah, that's Trees and Seas in a nutshell. I've probably forgot loads, but yeah, that'll do for me.